Amara Ellison was 42, a black woman with hazel eyes that held a quiet fire, masking a pain deeper than the roots of Napa Valley's ancient redwoods. Her full figure defied the West Coast elite's cruel standards, where her family's old money placed her under constant scrutiny. She carried herself with grace, inviting every untold story, her presence magnetic not for wealth, but for her ability to see the unseen. Those who praised her philanthropy whispered venom behind her back, calling her the heavy heiress. Her husband, Nathan Caldwell, was among them. It was Nathan's 35th birthday, and the Napa Valley mansion smelled of lavender and freshly brewed espresso. Amara had planned every detail, a brunch of poached eggs with truffle hollandaise, artisanal pastries, and wildflowers brightening the sunlit living room. She'd chosen a Patek Philippe watch, its sleek design perfect for Nathan's campaign photos. Nathan, 7 years her junior, was an aspiring politician, his charisma a public mask hiding a cold, calculating heart. His sharp gaze always scanned for the next opportunity. Their decade-long marriage had lost all warmth, leaving Amara to wonder if love had ever been real or just a mirage, like a seaside cottage that never materialized. She spent the morning ensuring every detail was perfect. The chef nodded as she approved the menu, the florist arranged the wildflowers just as she'd envisioned, and the watch sat wrapped in a velvet box, its ticking a quiet reminder of Nathan's obsession with appearances. Amara had always played her part, smiling at galas, signing checks for charities, and standing by Nathan's side as he charmed donors. But each smile cost her a piece of herself. Each check a reminder of the wealth that bound her to a man who saw her as a means to an end. At 10:16 a.m., Amara descended the polished oak staircase, clutching an envelope, a $100,000 donation to the National Youth Empowerment Fund in Nathan's name. She knew he thrived on the optics of generosity, the way it burnished his social media presence. The dining room was empty, but voices drifted from the study, sharp and unguarded. She paused behind the half-open door, her breath quiet as a shadow. Then she heard it. "That fat cow disgusts me, Mom," Nathan said, his laugh sharp and careless. "I only care about her money. What, did you think I actually enjoyed sleeping with her?" Amara's breath stopped, her heart a lead weight. Margaret Caldwell, her mother-in-law, responded with chilling pragmatism. "At least pretend, Nathan. Keep it up until you inherit everything. After that, you know what to do. Her days in your life are numbered. Do you want to be tied to a body like that, a piñata stuffed with regrets?" Their laughter was light, unburdened by shame, as if they were discussing the weather. Amara swallowed hard, the envelope slipping to the floor. Her face remained composed, a mask honed by years of navigating elite circles, but inside, a storm raged. Anger, betrayal, and a resolve she hadn't felt in years. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her reflection in the vanity mirror. Her curves, her stretch marks, her soft belly, they were marks of a life lived, of resilience, of survival. But to Nathan, they were disgust. To Margaret, they were a flaw to exploit. Amara's hands trembled, not with fear, but with a fire she had known she still possessed. She wouldn't beg for their approval. She wouldn't stay in a cage dressed in luxury. She would leave, not to escape, but to reclaim herself. That night, they dined together in the mansion's opulent dining room. Amara wore a serene smile, presenting Nathan with the watch and donation certificate. He thanked her with a perfunctory kiss on the cheek, his enthusiasm as hollow as their marriage. Margaret praised the wine, a rare vintage from their vineyard, and suggested Amara try her friend's new diet plan, her tone dripping with false concern. They all laughed, except Amara, who watched them with a calm that masked her brewing plan. She played her role flawlessly, her voice steady, her eyes warm, but her mind was already elsewhere. Past midnight, while Nathan slept soundly in their master's suite, Amara walked barefoot through the mansion. She studied every corner: the abstract art from Parisian galleries, the Italian furniture she'd imported, the grand piano she'd never learned to play. It was a museum of a life that wasn't hers, a gilded cage that had suffocated her for a decade. Each room held memories of silenced dreams, of nights spent wondering why she wasn't enough, of mornings waking to Nathan's cold indifference. The mansion was a monument to her sacrifice, and she was done worshiping at its altar. In the study, she pulled out a sheet of paper and wrote, "Thank you for showing your true colors." She signed it, A. Folding the note, she opened her laptop. Within an hour, she'd contacted a discreet real estate broker and a foreign buyer, transferring the bulk of her fortune to a Swiss account under a new identity. Years of managing her family's wealth had taught her to move money without a trace. Skills she'd honed while Nathan basked in the spotlight, oblivious to her quiet power. The mansion, the accounts, the investments, she severed them from her old life with surgical precision. By 5 a.m., she was gone, leaving the mansion as silent as her departure. She carried only a backpack, a long wool coat, her passport, and a faded photo of herself at 18, standing by the Pacific Ocean, arms wide as if the world was hers to claim. No servants saw her leave. 2 hours later, Nathan woke to an empty bed. He called out, his voice tinged with irritation, searching the kitchen, the garden, the bathrooms. He found the note on her pillow. "Thank you for showing your true colors." He crumpled it, dismissing it as a tantrum, a fleeting impulse born of emotional fragility. He tried her phone, off. Text went unanswered. He called his mother. "Where's Amara? She left a note. Thanks for showing your true colors? What does that mean?" Margaret's voice faltered, a rare shiver of unease creeping in. "She heard you, Nathan. She must have." That day, Nathan discovered the mansion was sold, the funds wired to an inaccessible Swiss account. Legally, everything belonged to Amara, even the tailored suits he wore, paid for with her family's wealth. He stormed through the house, shouting at the staff, demanding answers no one could give. The reality settled like a noose. Amara wasn't just gone, she'd taken everything he'd built his ambitions on. What he didn't know was that a finance reporter, sniffing around his campaign for months, had received an anonymous tip about the sale, complete with documents hinting at financial irregularities. A scandal was brewing, ready to erupt on national television. Meanwhile, Amara boarded a city bus bound for Oakland's Fruitvale neighborhood, a place where no one would recognize the Ellison heiress. She gazed out the window, her eyes calm, her mouth set in a determined line. The photo from her youth rested in her coat's inner pocket, like a talisman, a reminder of the woman she'd been before Nathan's world consumed her. For the first time in years, she breathed freely, unburdened by the weight of expectations. She had no fixed plan, only a purpose: to start over in a place where her worth wasn't measured by wealth or status, to discover her true value. The bus rattled through Fruitvale's gritty streets, its windows fogged with morning dampness. Amara's backpack held no jewels or designer clothes, but documents, a small stack of cash, a notebook filled with words she'd written when tears wouldn't stay down, and that faded photo of herself by the ocean, arms open as if the world was hers to claim. Back then, Nathan hadn't existed in her life. Back then, she hadn't become the polished shadow of a hollow marriage. The bus screeched to a halt. Fruitvale, last stop. The driver grunted. Amara stepped off, unnoticed. In this world, she was invisible, and it felt like freedom. Fruitvale wasn't destitute, but it was worn. Cracked sidewalks told stories of harsh winters and broken dreams. Yet hope lingered like wildflowers in the pavement seams. Children played in muddy lots, their laughter piercing the morning quiet. Women balanced babies and brooms, their faces etched with resilience. A man grilled tamales from a food truck, the air thick with cumin and the soulful strains of an old R&B song from a battered radio. Amara wandered, absorbing every detail with a mix of fear and wonder. This was a world far removed from Napa's polished mansions, a world where survival was a daily act of defiance. A faded sign on a weathered gate caught her eye. Room for rent, shared bath, no questions asked. She knocked. Rosa Delgado, a woman in her 60s with skin etched by time and eyes sharp with suspicion, answered. Her presence carried the weight of someone who'd seen too much to trust easily. Looking for something? Rosa asked, her voice gruff. I saw the sign. I need a place to stay. I can pay up front. Rosa scanned Amara from head to toe. Her poise, her unblemished hands, her steady gaze, they didn't belong in Fruitvale. Name? Amara hesitated for a heartbeat. Maya Carter. Funny name for this place. Come in. No refunds, no trouble. The room was cramped, with a creaky twin bed, a wheezing fan that rattled like it was on its last legs, and a window with chipped paint that let in a sliver of gray light. It smelled of mildew and time, but to Amara it was a sanctuary, a place where she could begin again. She paid for a month and settled in, arranging her few belongings with care. That night, she lay on the stiff mattress, eyes closed, letting the silence wrap around her like a shield. For the first time in years, she slept without the weight of Nathan's disdain pressing on her chest. The next day, Amara walked the neighborhood, introducing herself as Maya Carter, a woman ruined by financial fraud, a half-truth that deflected questions and invited pity rather than scrutiny. Locals eyed her with a mix of compassion and curiosity, another broken story in a place full of them. She found herself at a small community health center, its peeling facade barely holding together. Inside, rusty exam tables and cardboard box desks spoke of desperation and determination. A woman argued with a young doctor about unaffordable medicine, her voice sharp with frustration. We don't have that antibiotic here, the doctor said, his tone firm but kind. If you buy it outside, I can't vouch for its quality. Amara watched him, tall with messy black hair and tired eyes that carried a quiet grief beneath their warmth. He glanced at her briefly before returning to his patient. Keep bringing your son. We don't turn anyone away, money or not. We'll figure out the medicine. When the woman left, Amara approached. Are you the doctor? Dr. Elias Torres. Need medical attention? No, I want to volunteer. I've got experience in organization and management, inventory, donations, that sort of thing. Elias studied her, sensing her polished demeanor didn't fit this rough-edged world. Her hands were too soft, her speech too measured, but he didn't pry. Welcome, Maya. We need hands more than questions. And so it began. Amara folded stained linens, sorted expired supplies, and tracked meager donations that arrived like small miracles. No one asked about her past. Her present was enough. She learned the rhythms of the clinic, the chaos of emergencies, the quiet moments of gratitude when a patient smiled. She cleaned wounds, organized shelves, and listened to stories of struggle and survival. Each day chipped away at the shell she'd built in Napa, revealing a woman she barely recognized but desperately wanted to know. At the clinic, she met Sophia, a 9-year-old girl with brittle hair and eyes too wise for her age, as if she'd already seen the world's sharp edges. Sophia sat on an exam table, her head resting on her grandmother's shoulder. She hasn't eaten in days, Abuela Carmen said, her voice heavy with worry. Fever at night, skin getting paler. Elias ordered tests, then stepped into the hall, his face tight with concern. Amara followed. What's wrong? I suspect leukemia, but we need lab results. That costs money we don't have. Amara glanced at Sophia, who was whispering to a one-armed doll, her small voice weaving stories to keep the fear at bay. Abuela Carmen approached Amara later, her eyes sharp but kind. You're not from here. Your hands are too soft, your posture too straight. Life here bends people. Amara stayed silent, her throat piped. Carmen continued. I had secrets once too. No judgment. Just be careful who you let see you. Some eyes want flesh. Others want your soul. Elias, he's the soul kind. Amara nodded, a lump forming in her chest. Weeks passed and she became part of Fruitvale, not for her past, but for her work. She found solace in the routine, a purpose that filled the void Nathan had left. She laughed with Sophia, who told her stories of imaginary world where dolls could fly. She shared coffee with Carmen, whose sharp wit and quiet wisdom grounded her. Elias became a steady presence, his tired eyes softening when he spoke to her, though she sensed he saw more than she wanted to reveal. One morning, while sorting files in the clinic's makeshift office, the phone rang. Elias answered, his face darkening. "Caldwell? You sure? And the files still active?" Amara dropped a box, her hands trembling. Elias glanced at her but said nothing, his eyes narrowing slightly. Later, alone, she asked, "What was that call about?" "An old patient case I thought was closed. They mentioned a name, Caldwell." Her heart raced, a cold sweat breaking out on her skin. "Do you know him?" She lied smoothly, "No." But Elias's eyes lingered, piecing together a puzzle she wasn't ready to reveal. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. Fear clawed at her, the name Caldwell a blade in her memory. She sat on her mattress, clutching the photo of her younger self, her notebook heady with words she couldn't yet speak. She wrote, "Fear is a cage with open doors," and closed the notebook, her resolve hardening. She wouldn't let Nathan find her, not yet. A community fair was organized to raise funds for the clinic, a desperate bid to keep it afloat. Amara took charge, rallying women to sell tamales, knitted scarves, and handmade jewelry. She coordinated permits, schedules, and volunteers, her efficiency earning quiet respect. The neighborhood came alive with music, laughter, and the smell of grilled corn. Children ran between stalls, their faces painted with bright colors. Amara worked tirelessly, her hands dusted with flour as she helped prepare empanadas, her heart lighter than it had been in years. Abuela Carmen watched her knead dough, her eyes warm. "I don't know who you were before, Maya, but you're good for this place." Amara smiled, embracing her new name. Maya Carter was more than a disguise. It was a version of herself she wanted to become. But the past wasn't done with her. Elias mentioned an old file in passing, connected to Margaret Caldwell. "She was my patient years ago," he said, unaware Amara was listening behind a curtain. "I was fired for refusing to cover up illegal prescriptions for her addicted clients. Her son, Nathan, threatened to ruin me if I talked." Amara's stomach churned. Her past and Elias's were tangled, a web spun long before they met. She felt the weight of her secrets pressing harder, threatening to crack the fragile life she was building. That night on the roof of an abandoned warehouse she'd secretly bought to transform into a women's shelter, she let tears fall, not from sadness, but from a mix of gratitude and pain. She was free, but shadows remained, and they were closing in. In Los Angeles, Nathan hurled a glass against his office wall, the crystal shattering like his crumbling ambitions. A photo from the Fruitvale Fair, sent by a private investigator, showed Amara in the background, blurred but unmistakable. Her face, once a trophy to display, now haunted him. "Get the car," he barked. "We're going to Fruitvale." His black SUV rolled into the neighborhood, an alien presence among the cracked sidewalks and vibrant murals. Amara, returning from the clinic with a bag of gauze, spotted it and froze. Her heart pounded. Instinct taking over, she slipped into an alley, her steps quick but controlled, and hid behind a crumbling wall until the car vanished. He hadn't seen her, but he was close, too close. Sophia's condition worsened. She collapsed at the fair, blood trickling from her nose, her small body trembling before going still. Elias carried her to the clinic, his hands steady but his face pale. He hooked up IVs and oxygen, his voice tight as he told Amara, "The leukemia is advancing. We don't have the resources here." Amara's fist clenched, her resolve hardening. She wouldn't let Sophia slip away, not this girl who'd become her anchor, her reason to keep going. Amara stood by Sophia's bedside, watching the girl's shallow breaths. The clinic's dim lights cast shadows on the peeling walls, but Sophia's small hand clutched her one-armed doll, a flicker of defiance in her pale face. Amara's heart ached, not just for Sophia, but for the life she'd reclaimed in Fruitvale, a life now threatened by the past she couldn't outrun. She wouldn't let Sophia go, not this girl who'd given her purpose, whose laughter had become her medicine. That night, Amara pulled out her last hidden treasure, a diamond brooch from her grandmother, worth more than the clinic itself. She'd kept it buried in her backpack, a final relic of her old life. By morning, she returned with a check to start Sophia's treatment, her face calm, but her hands trembling from the weight of the sacrifice. Elias didn't ask how she'd gotten it. His eyes held a new certainty, a quiet admiration. You didn't come here to hide, you came to rebuild. Sophia, weak but smiling, handed Amara a braided bracelet woven with red and blue threads. "So you won't leave," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Never," Amara replied, taking her hand, her voice steady despite the ache in her chest. The news broke days later. An anonymous leak tied Nathan and Margaret to corruption, money laundering, bribery, misuse of campaign funds. Nathan's career crumbled, his face splashed across headlines, not as a rising star, but as a disgraced fraud. Reporters swarmed, digging into the mysterious sale of the Napa Valley mansion, the vanished heiress, and the financial irregularities that pointed to Nathan's campaign. His allies abandoned him, his donors fled, and his carefully crafted image shattered like the glass he'd thrown in his office. Nathan arrived at the warehouse Amara had bought, now the Maya Carter Foundation. Clutching a briefcase, his eyes hollow with desperation. The building was still under construction, its walls bare, but its purpose clear. A haven for women escaping abuse, poverty, and silence. Amara faced him from the steps, her posture unyielding, her hazel eyes steady. "I came to make a deal," Nathan said, his voice low, almost pleading. "There are no deals," Amara replied, her tone calm but firm. "I took back what you stole, my dignity. You think this place matters more than what we had? It's the only thing that matters. You'll never have peace, Nathan." She handed him an envelope, inside a note. "Power without love is empty. You killed me 1,000 times, but I rose. We're nothing now. Learn to be alone." Nathan left, his footsteps heavy on the gravel, his briefcase unopened. Amara watched him go, feeling neither fear nor rage, only a cold compassion for a man who'd lost everything because he valued nothing. She turned back to the warehouse, her vision for the foundation clearer than ever. It would be a place where women could rebuild, where their worth wasn't measured by wealth or appearances, where they could find the strength she'd rediscovered. But a heavier truth weighed on her. Amara's diagnosis, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, a secret she'd carried for a year, loomed larger each day. Her hands trembled more often, her steps grew unsteady, but she refused to let it define her. She told Elias one night, as they sat in the clinic's small office, the air thick with the scent of antiseptic and hope. "I have months, maybe years," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "I want them to mean something." Elias's eyes filled with tears, but his voice was firm. They will. We'll build this together. The Maya Carter Foundation took shape, its walls rising with the help of Fruitvale's community. Women who had once been silent painted murals, men who could barely read mixed cement, and children ran through the halls, their laughter a promise of new beginnings. Amara poured her remaining wealth into it, transferring every account, every investment, ensuring the foundation would survive long after she was gone. She worked tirelessly, her body weakening, but her spirit unyielding. She formed a bond with Sophia, whose laughter was a light in her darkening days, and with Abuela Carmen, whose wisdom grounded her. Elias became her confidant, his quiet strength a mirror to her own. Sophia's treatment began, funded by the brooch Amara had sold. The girl's smile returned, faint but fierce, as she played with her doll and wove stories of hope. Amara spent hours by her side, listening to her tales, braiding her hair, and promising to stay as long as she could. Godman watched them, her sharp eyes softening. "You've given her more than medicine," she said one evening. "You've given her a mother." Amara's heart swelled, but the weight of her diagnosis grew heavier. She wrote in her notebook each night, her words a lifeline. "My husband said I disgusted him, but I am not his to define." The pages filled with her thoughts, her fears, her dreams for the foundation, and her love for the people who'd become her family. One morning, Amara awoke before dawn, her body heavy with fatigue. She climbed to the warehouse roof, the stars fading above her. She wrote, "Fear is a cage with open doors," and closed her notebook, knowing her time was near. That day, she collapsed at the clinic, her breath shallow, but her smile serene. Elias was by her side, holding her hand as she slipped away. Her final words a whisper, "Keep it alive." Her ashes nourished a sapling in the foundation's garden, a young almond tree that Sophia vowed to water daily. Amara's manuscript, "My husband said I disgusted him," was found in her room, its pages filled with her journey from betrayal to redemption. Elias had it published, and it became a beacon for women worldwide, its words resonating with those who'd felt invisible, unworthy, or broken. The Maya Carta Foundation grew, opening new locations, each one a testament to a woman who turned pain into purpose. Sophia, now stronger, wrote a children's book, The Girl Who Wove Courage, inspired by Amara. She spoke of her at book fairs, her voice steady as she said, "Amara didn't die. She woke up in me." Elias wore a locket with a lock of Amara's hair, a reminder of her light. Margaret vanished, donating her wealth to the foundation, her name fading into obscurity. Nathan sank into oblivion, his lies exposed, his empire dust. Years later, the foundation stood as a living legacy, its walls adorned with murals of Amara's smiling face. Women who'd read her story came to heal, to rebuild, to speak their truths. At a ceremony for a new shelter, Sophia, now a teenager, cut the ribbon and said, "Amara didn't die. She woke up in us."